Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy Grimm and this is the Grimm Reader, and today I wanted to give you a Chatty reading update. I returned from my brilliant trip to California on Tuesday the 16th, and it was really a wonderful trip just to be with probably my closest friend, and a friend that I hope you all have, someone who wherever you kind of are with them, it just kind of the conversation flows, and you just talk. We talked the whole time, and we even gave ourselves the name in German of Quasseltanten. Wir waren die Quasseltanten, the jabbering aunties. It's just, that's why I hope you all have, it's great to have a friendship like that, where you just talk about everything and books and culture and our lives, and just a never-ending wonderful conversation with my friend. And we hadn't seen each other in person in quite a number of years. And it was also really, really fun to see. I had been out there once before where they live, but just the landscape is so different, and the town is really nice where they live. I think it's a bit nicer than our town, but it's bigger for one thing, and it's California, so it has a different vibe. And one of the best things about California, I think, is the fact that you have the tropical fauna of the lower areas, and then pretty close by you have these beautiful snow-covered mountains right there. That's like fascinating to me, because in Europe you don't have that. You don't have palm trees and mountains. I mean, actually maybe some places you do in the south, but no I've seen. And it was just a wonderful trip. And of course I kind of knew it would happen, but it's sort of weird how when I came back I was thinking I should sort of try and get a really good schedule going and be getting stuff done before the next trip coming up, which will be Tuesday week. I always say Tuesday week, and my students told me that's not really something they're used to hearing. Tuesday in a week's time. A week from Tuesday. I always say Tuesday week, meaning a week. And they said, Frau Grimm, we don't understand that. Could you explain that to me? What does that mean, Tuesday week? It's like, isn't it obvious what it means? So, one of those linguistic things. Gotta be careful. Tuesday in a week's time, I leave for Germany. But the in-between time, which is what we're in now, has kind of turned into a bit of a slumpy. I'm reading and enjoying my reading, but I'm also being lazy and playing silly games a little bit on my phone. It lulls me. It's distraction from pain sometimes, because I have my chronic pain. And for that reason, I think the distraction element of the internet and games will always have a positive aspect in my being. I think that sometimes distraction is okay if it distracts you from focusing on something deeply unpleasant, like pain. I'm not totally anti-distraction, but of course then when it turns into procrastination and just zombie-like behaviors when it gets bad, and I'm not saying exactly that it has happened, but in a way I'm kind of hoping, or putting a positive spin even on that it's kind of a regenerative thing. One thing I did was I did some research on the minimum of the steps that are considered necessary to maintain health. I shouldn't have done that, but maybe I did. And I'm looking at my little cheap pedometer that you just wear around your neck or clip. It's not connected to a phone or anything, and I decided to get it. And so the minimum I found out from the internet is about 5,000 steps. If you get that every day, you're okay. If you get less than that, it's a problem. That's what they were saying. And it said in one video, if you go up to 7,500 steps, that's you get an improvement. But after 75, you don't. So you don't really need 10,000. But the optimal will be 7,500. But my problem is, because of just being who I am, and it's really hot out, and I do have issues with tiredness, I don't get 5,000. But I'm sort of thinking or hoping, and so I get into this whole thing of, but I'm resting, and I'm rejuvenating, and I'm recouping, and I have illness issues. That's why I don't get to 5,000. It sounds like an excuse. It probably is, but it's also kind of somewhat valid. And so, do I worry about the fact that I'm not getting the optimal amount? But if I were to force myself too much to do that, that would be bad too. So it's like a catch-22 situation, a little bit. And then I was sort of thinking, just relax a little bit, because once school starts, and there are times when I do get more steps. It's as if the ebb and flow of my year is such that sometimes I'm a bit not moving enough. And I could do stretches and stuff, which I also don't do enough, but I thought walking is the simplest thing. Anyway, so there's one thing that's going on. And then, yeah, that's about it in terms of this. I guess the other thing to say is just that my mind wanders into weird directions. And I'm finding, for example, I'm having a summer or a time where I'm sort of intrigued by non-mainstream cultural things. For example, earlier in the summer we watched Sun Ra's movie, Space is the Place. He's this wacky but fascinating figure in kind of Afrofuturist stuff, and I really like the movie. I like strange movies. And then, of course, the whole thing with Harry Smith. Heidi talked about the book, and I became obsessed with this. I mean, as a person, he probably was a pill. I'm not denying that, but he was also kind of a sort of weird collector of jazz and folkways, and he wandered around Greenwich and Brooklyn being wacky and mystical and interested in weird stuff, and made really interesting experimental movies and paintings. I really do like his art. So I'm just drawn to the wackies. I think I always have been. And last night, I got a subscription to Criterion. So this is a movie channel that sort of has more of the old-fashioned and sometimes artsy stuff. And that's where we watched Space is the Place. And other movies, we've watched some more traditional, old-timey things. Like, what's the one when they're on the beach movie? Oh, what is it called? It was pretty good. I don't know. It was a bit dated. What did we watch? Yes, we just stumbled on this artist animator called Susan Pitts, P-I-T-Z. No, Suzanne, S-U-Z-A-N, and then Pitts. Really interesting, funky, colorful, artistic cartoons and movies based on her art. She apparently she wanted her art to move. And it's really interesting. I really liked it. And I told Bill how we were watching it, and I was really enjoying just the kind of weirdness of it all and the little story she was trying to tell. We watched two of them. We watched Crocus and then something with Joy. That's her most famous one. And then after that we went back to watching mainstream stuff. A pretty good show, Hacks is a good show. But I just felt like this total vibe shift of the interesting, creative, non-mainstream stuff to the more mainstream. Also, I think the season of Hacks is a little less good than the earlier one. I think it's getting a little hacky. Some of the stuff's getting a little sticky in it. But it's as if it, maybe even in terms of mood, you have I'm more attuned with experimental things than at other times. But I just thought it was really interesting. And tell me if you've ever heard of Susan Pitts. Caring is her last name, and then her son, could be, I don't know, Blue Caring is her child, and they've done other things too, but it was cool. I liked it. Let's get into the books. I'm showing you what I'm drinking. I'm thirsty. I'm always thirsty. Today I'm enjoying I think it's grapefruit and something orange. Oh no, pomegranate and orange. Melograna and Arancia. Looks like pomegranate and orange. It's a little bit, it's good. It's good. I have to stretch it, make it less sweet with my water though. It's still too sweet for me. Anyway, that's my drink because I'm talking a lot. I finished the next in my order of the Zola books, which is The Dream, which is completely different in terms of the cast of characters from his earlier works. It's not political. It's this beautiful, ethereal, mystical, spiritual story of this fantastic young woman who's very strange. I would say, even though I love the characters, they're almost like, they almost seem like they're too extreme in a certain sense. Like the couple that takes her in, she's adopted from a church. It's all very fairy tale-esque and unreal seeming. And one thing I loved about the book is how the church and the cathedral that they live next to, how architecture is almost kind of anthropomorphized. It becomes part of the story, the living, this material of the space that they're in is alive, and it's almost like part of the conversation. I don't know, I loved it. She's Angelique. She's this unreal, very passionate, not entirely obedient, but it's as if she's completely driven by her own wants, but she's not selfish at all. And so what happens is her living with these people. Another theme of the book is the fact that they are embroiderers. They embroider the beautiful outfits that the clergy wear, and they have all these weird names that I'm not familiar with. And she herself, just because of fate, and it's kind of like a fairy tale, falls into being an expert embroiderer. And so this emphasis on embroidery I found fascinating too. It's just it's a anything to do with the crafts, because I'm so bad at them. I'm not very crafty at all. Once I got one of those little crochet things, I still have it. I still haven't done it. I think it's just a me thing, but I'm still fascinated. And also in terms of fairy tales and stuff, so sewing, at least not here necessarily, because the husband does it too, is generally considered woman's work, and it's connected to spinning and spinning tales. Any kind of making clothes and stuff is not that far off from spinning yarn, spinning stories, telling fairy tales. So there's a kind of there's a connection there. So I love the embroidery stuff. I love the plot itself is pretty minimal, but it's beautifully told, and it is very fairy tale-esque. But I kept on thinking, this is still Zola, this sort of over-the-top, hyper, trying to hone in on a certain atmosphere or vibe is absolutely wonderful. And it's a very short one for him because it's so limited in the characters. There's just her and the family. I'll say in general terms, the love interest. And then her parents are very strange. They're sort of, it hinges on moral issues to do with marriage, so in a certain sense, and then offspring, which is also kind of very fairy tale-esque. And I would highly recommend this. Maybe even just go ahead and read it as your Zola. I mean, the top of the list still is Jamina for me, the one about the miners, which is amazing. But this is a good starter Zola. It's short and it has this limited cast of characters. You just have to kind of go in and accept that it's going to be a lot of descriptions about embroidery, for example, and what she's sewing, and needles, and the church and the people, and the sort of the setup of the church and the rituals surrounding the church. So it's sort of it is a kind of descriptive novel, and so if you're not down for that, it might be a bit of an issue. But it's sort of, so it's not, it was published written later. Oh, that's right. It was written later in a response to some people who had written some newspaper article berating his always depicting the lower classes or extreme situations, or it's even a question of censorship, because he's sort of, depicting deplorable situations. And so this was his look. I can do something about purity and love and do a good job of that too. It's sort of like his, see, I can do the other thing too. And he sort of does. It's quite mystical. It's going into, and for some reason, and this is another segue for me, this is the way my mind works, because it was so mystical and about stuff, I felt compelled to pick up another book that has been on my shelf for a while, and let me show you which one. And it's going to be one of these dip-in books. I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing, but I might. I've always been fascinated by someone who a lot of other people are fascinated with, and it is the French activist, mystic, all-around fascinating genius person who died, of course, way too young. The question is whether how was it suicide, or was she just kind of did too much and was too frail. And anyway, Simone Weil, the brilliant mystic from France, grew up in an agnostic Jewish family, and one of these sort of super altruistic people who wanted to live out her life in a really kind of extreme version of Orwell, like her beliefs and what she stood up for, which were always leftist, always about the worker, the repressed, the oppressed. She was behind trade unions. She supported general strike. She made her parents put up Trotsky for a while, so I guess going into the Marxist stuff too. So definitely kind of left-leaning all the time. Marxist, pacifist, and trade unionist. It says here, she often became involved in political action out of sympathy with the working class, which I kind of vibe with, of course. I mean, as we say in German, my heart beats left. But with her, it took kind of extreme forms. And one thing that she seemed to do, which I think is really interesting, and it's as if she always wanted to have first-hand experience of situations. So she actually went to work in a factory, even though she didn't have to, from her background. And not many people did that, I remember my short time in a factory was not because I really wanted to, it's because I wanted money. And it was a really interesting, eye-opening experience. It wasn't actually completely negative. I kind of didn't mind the work. And this is so me. The one thing I liked about the work is how at the end of when we did a double shift, they would go order out from the restaurant across the way. So we got this really good food that they would deliver in little styrofoam boxes. And we sat in the little cage where we worked and ate our schnitzel. And then at the end of the shift, we would get extra money on, like, they would put us in the line and give us cash. This was just one summer that I did it. But I do also remember, and it reminds me of why, not that I'm kind of comparing myself at all, I'm much more of a hedonistic, lazy person, was how completely the level of exhaustion you get when you are physically depleted. It was like your brain is like numb. And I was going through some things, and even my mother, because she was going through things too, and we were sort of still together. I was at home in summer before going back to the States. She didn't quite understand it, and I remember one time I just had to tell her, look, I'm just I cannot take in what you're trying to tell me right now because I'm so exhausted. And I was a little bit like, don't you understand that I'm so exhausted from this work? And I don't think she did, probably because I don't think she ever did that kind of work. I mean, pretty sure she didn't. The physical fatigue from the sort of mind-numbing work is I think maybe something that everyone has to experience. Or I'm not saying that everyone will. Of course, not everyone has to. But unless you don't quite understand the plight of people who have to do this all the time. And the idea of how privileged we are, the people who don't have to do it, is there too. And so she did that, and then I was reading how she wanted to work on a harvesting the grapes somewhere, so she would be a farm worker to see how that was. And of course, that's probably even worse. I don't think I could do that. So to sort of experience in your own body the plight of the worker, the drudge, so to speak. And of course, what's interesting about Violet is then she has these conversion or mystic experiences where she feels compelled to pray or become interested in spiritual stuff. Okay, so, and what I was reading, I started to read her essay called Human Personality. It's the first one in the book, and it was written quite late, I think. One of the last written during her brief life. And I remember starting it once and not really understanding what she was trying to get at. And now I read it and I'm like, okay, now I think I kind of I see her as she's setting up personality as something lower than. So for her, the impersonal is higher or more transcendent. Anyway, I can't do a good job of explaining it, but it has to do with, she says here, it is neither his person nor the human personality in him which is sacred to me. It is he, the man, the whole of him, the arms, the eyes, the thoughts, everything. Not without infinite scruple would I touch anything of his. So this kind of holistic, what is the human that we need to kind of respect in everyone, in all people. I haven't finished it. I think these are quite long, these essays, and you have to sort of sit and think about them. And I'm still not sure I understand everything about it. Impersonality is only reached by the practice of a form of attention, which is rare in itself and impossible except in solitude. That's another thing she emphasizes very, very much, is being alone. And not only physical, but mental solitude. So that's going along with the spiritual and mystical aspects of what she's saying. So yeah, I do think she's very interesting, but she is one of these people whose life eclipses her work sometimes, I think. And I'm the same. That's kind of why I got interested in her, because of her life, not the works. But I always feel like, well, I need to read the works. But she also has an essay on the other book that I'm trying to read, which is the Iliad. So I might take a peek at that at some point. So let's segue into that book that I'm trying to read for the summer. It's going really slowly. I do dip into it and then I like it. But because I'm sort of OCD about writing down every name that pops up, it's slow going because there are a lot of names. And there's usually two names together because it's always about son of or father of. And oftentimes in the section I'm in, which is book 5, there are brothers who appear, so 2 people. And it's an interesting chapter because it's the war is being fought, and it's Diomedes doing his deeds. And maybe it was even beginning in the 4th chapter. I was kind of surprised and perhaps a little shocked at how descriptive the violence is. Like they always have to tell us where the spear comes out, you know, in what proximity to the nipple, or I'm just reading here. He's pulling the arrow out of someone. Yeah, Sthenelus is pulling the arrow out of some guy. clean on through the wound, and blood coming shooting out like a red lance through the supple mesh shirt. So lots of blood, lots of gore. I mean, which is not bad. I think that's done on purpose. It's like trying to make clear that war is war. But I was like, well, okay, sure, yeah, okay. And I still have sort of, I like it, but it's so different from what I'm used to reading, and I'm so not versed in the mythological background of it all that it is a little bit slow going, because I'm sort of like, I want to know who everyone is and what they're all doing, and so I spend so much time Googling people and places and, you know, all the god stuff. Like, why is Athena so mean? She seems to hate Aphrodite. She's like she taunts Aphrodite because someone hurt her wrist, and it's like, why are they all so weird with each other? The gods are kind of like confounding to me, but I will persevere. At least I might have to stop when school starts and then just save it. I don't mind having books on my TBR half read or somewhat partially read for a very long time, as you'll see in a minute. So yeah, the Iliad, that's that. What next? Let me show you, talking about being in a slump and being unable to focus. The only book I bought at the airport in where I was, Ontario, California was the airport. They have a really nice, like, I'm always on the lookout for a nice, tangent incoming, bookstore that appeals to the Cathys. So, you know, nice earrings, sweets, books, like nice, like not just the typical whatever, like, and they had a whole kind of, and this was one of those stores. It was like, okay, so I ended up buying quite a bit of stuff there, because it's like, if you have it all nicely laid out, I will buy your stuff. I mean, I might, especially if I have time to wait, and I usually do. But I was sort of completely unimpressed with the Dallas airport. It had nothing. Was there even a bookstore there? I don't even remember but there probably was, but it was very minimal, and it was not pretty and not nice, with like some jewelry or whatever. It has like stupid bag stores. I don't know. Anyway, I was unimpressed with the stores there. And so they had this carousel of Harvard business stuff, and they all look kind of interesting to me, and I got honed in on what I need, which is focus. And it's actually not bad. I mean, I actually should put it on Goodreads, because I did read the whole thing already. I skimmed some of the stuff in the back. It got a little bit like, but the front stuff I thought was quite good, and I should kind of reread it, distinguishing between different types of focus. Focus on your body, focus on your surroundings, and focus on the big world, and how you have to decide where to put your focus. And also the whole idea of mental energy and executive stuff. And anyway, I thought it was quite well done in the beginning. It's sort of tying together people's articles from different places. And even though it does talk about the leader, I'm not really interested in leadership, except in the terms of being a teacher, I guess. But I thought it was worth the $20 that I paid for it, I think, which I don't know if it really was, but it's sort of a little handbook on focus. Because sometimes I have a hard time. I think sometimes it's partly because of illness issues, like needing downtime, but not wanting to face that I need downtime, and so I kind of do it in a subversive way. That's that. And then we get to the other few things that are going on, the continuation books. I may have to make a whole video about Jerusalem. So this is the second volume, and let me, I'm gonna get the box set. Here's Jerusalem, my fantastic read that I'm listening to and also reading. And here's Eleanor, the author, the mystic, the wizard. So it's also kind of spiritual. It's a very spiritual book, focusing on Northampton, England, and the afterlife and the fourth dimension, which he, in the second book, describes really, really well. It's quite different. The second volume is quite different from the first, because we're in what they call the upstairs. So the sort of, it reminds me a little bit of, not quite, but sort of Lincoln in the Bardo, the kind of in between, even though it's different, but it's this proverbial liminal space where ghosts run around and do fun stuff and interact in weird, fascinating ways that what's interesting about the upstairs for him is it's a way for him to go to be sort of forward looking, or at least present looking, and then also backwards looking. Like right now we're talking about Oliver Cromwell and the Civil War, and then there was another time when he was talking about suicide bombers, and it's all kind of together because it's the fourth dimension, so the interaction with time and space is quite different, and he's done a really good job of, I think, explaining that. Plus you have the dulcet tones of Simon Vance just talking away into your ear, and he's amazing. The only time I gave it, I think I may have already said, there is a character in here from America who ends up living in Northampton. And the American accent does give Simon a little bit of difficulty, but in the end, you just, because the storytelling is so fantastic, you just, it's fine. And Lily's down here saying, can I jump up? So you want to jump up, Lily? You want to say hi? So it's going really well, and I'll try and, I haven't really said a lot about the plot, but the thing I'll say is that I would recommend this. It is long. I mean, it's 3 volumes, but they sell it as one long novel. But you know, it's okay, fine. It's about 60 hours audio. It is very long, but for some reason, I don't understand people's hesitancy with long books. I mean, as someone who's a really slow reader, I should be like the first to be like, oh, not for me. But I like them. I like long books when they're great, and this is a great one. Highly recommended. Makes me want to go back to Northampton maybe and look at it. Not that I probably ever will. Oh, someone from Naseby, Church of England Primary School. All in all, you are the best author in human history. Please write back. I wonder if that's a real quote. It probably is. I can see why someone thinks that. He's a very good writer. And then Michael Moorcock, who my mother hung out with, he has a blurb on the back here. Great visionaries of our age. Yes, I agree. It's a fantastic book. It's going to definitely be in the top of my books, my reading for the year. And it's so interesting to be listening to it after Dickens, because of Vance reading it, same reader. But there are sort of Dickensian in its scope, even more than Dickensian. But this, and also with his clear kind of stated proclivities for the underprivileged people of this area, working class. You know, it's like in that sense, it's Dickensian too. And also, I mean, even this other book that I won't know about, the one focusing in on the middle and lower classes, and then promoting them to the center of your work, as opposed to what used to usually happen, where it's all about the upstairs people and the downstairs are peripheral to the story. And I do really like that. I do really like when we have the sort of the normal working classes, lower middle, sort of lifted up out of there, and you see how unique their lives are and how wonderful. I just like, it's just something I like. And then last but not least, my other doorstopper. I've made a little bit of progress in this book that there's another book I just remembered I finished. I'll have to do that at the end. Miss Macintosh, My Darling, the absolutely brilliant work by Margaret Young. How can I have this? I'm on 191 of 1,000 pages, and it's been years. It's because it's sort of like a poem, and it's hypnotic, and so like I just like reading it in little tiny snippets, even though it's taking me forever. But every page, every line, every sentence is just so draws you in. And I would like to sort of maybe try and speed up things a little bit. Maybe just do it like a couple of pages a day. Maybe I'll try and do that for the rest of the year. We'll see how things go. But, you know, it really is just this weird, mystical, surreal, poetic novel about this young girl, basically, and her nanny, or the person who is in charge of her life and looking after her, quasi mother substitute, because her actual mother's in bed, sort of ill and delirious, and something to do with a drug addict, I guess, I don't know. And so she spends a lot of time with this Miss Macintosh, and I think it's all about how she regrets not having been more sort of, she has regrets regarding her relationship with Miss Macintosh, I think, and then she's sort of pursuing and remembering her and their relationship. But it goes into all, of course, very different directions. And she's been on this bus to the town, What Cheer, Iowa, which is the actual town, What Cheer, It has about 650 inhabitants in the middle of Iowa. I thought it was made up, but nope, there's actually a town called Watchie. So that's going quite well. The thing about this is if I dip into this, it means I'm not dipping into something else. So, and I'm actually thinking of two other things that I'm still kind of working on. Well, the one that I finished is Nupaming, but I don't think I want to say a lot about it right now, almost because it's such a book that centers the indigeneity of its characters and their interactions that I, as a white lady, even though 5% Maori, not that you can see it, but I have Maori ancestry. I find it hard to talk about, but I do really think it's a work of art, and I love how it's sort of a work of there's sort of they are a multi-talented artist, and they make videos too about the stuff. So music, they're quite accomplished musician too, Leanne. Yeah, I really loved it. I really did love it. And that took me a long time too, because I did the same thing. I read it like a long poem, and I would just dip into it, and then I knew that because I actually liked that it had like only a couple lines on a lot of the pages, because it sort of felt very, gave you time to think and reflect on stuff and just kind of dwell on things more. It was a different type of reading experience, and I really enjoyed it. So that was fine. And then the last thing I'm reading on my Kindle, maybe I'll put a little picture here at the end, is Knausgard, the second volume in the trilogy. The Morning Star was one, and now we have The Wolves of Eternity, which apparently in German it's called something that the forest. The Wolves in the Forest of Eternity, which I think is strange, because I was thinking of maybe reading it in German instead of English, because I think I want to read Fosse in German. But I don't know, Knausgard kind of works for me in English as well. He's a different writer. So that's that. And I have chatted here for over 33 minutes, but I'm going to it'll hopefully be less by the time I edit it all down, a little bit less. Have you read any of these things? I know, very eclectic per usual. And yeah, chatting about everything. I will probably make a blog around the end of the month, because I've done one for the sort of the end of May, and then I did one sort of the end of June. So now I should do one sort of the end of July, kind of like the summer vlogs. I'll see how I feel. I've been a little bit like, do I really want to make a video? And like, that's why I've been putting off a little bit, just because of this mood that I'm in. And then regarding Germany, it's a very short trip, Tuesday to Tuesday. I'll probably do a vlog. I mean, it might be a bit, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I probably don't want to film. I don't think I want to film the 40th high school reunion. I mean, there might be a picture or two. And also I have to check with everyone. I checked with Freddie. She was fine with being in the video. So we'll see. Most people, they don't have no clue that I do these videos. I mean, I highly doubt it. Maybe someone knows. I don't know. So yeah, I will report back from Germany at least. And then of course school starts pretty soon after that too. So my whole life will change again. Thank you all for watching. I apologize for the length. Let's see if Lily wants to say hi. You want to say hi, Lily?